Liam Spencer moved through the dusky corridors of Il Giardino with a silent determination that belied the storm raging in his chest. Ever since Luna Nozawa had emerged from the chaos that nearly cost Steffi her life, battered, terrified, and haunted by fresh betrayal, Liam had sworn to shield her from every predator circling at the fringes of their world. He had seen the panic flit across her faltering eyes when whispers of revenge, of exposure, of fresh vengeance trailed in their wake, and he knew he had to act with all the resources Bill Spencer's empire and Forrester ingenuity could muster. So when Luna's trembling voice confessed that she could no longer set foot inside the glittering halls of Los Angeles society, fearing ambush by anyone from disgruntled insiders to Grace Buckingham's still unquenched thirst for retribution, Liam had taken her hand and led her to a safe house far from prying eyes. A secluded beachside cottage on the outskirts of Malibu, its whitewashed walls little more than a whisper against the Pacific breeze, its windows shuttered against intrusion, its only sounds the rise and fall of the tide and the distant cry of gulls. There, with Thomas Forrester's discreet financial backing and Ridge's agreement to mask her presence under a false identity, Luna could vanish until the next violence faded from memory. But rumors have a way of clinging to the most unlikely prey. As soon as Poppy Nozawa's exposé against Forrester Creations had unraveled the corporate underbelly of the family empire, new conspiracies bloomed like nightshade in the dark. And one particularly poisonous whisper began to circulate through the corridors of power and tabloids alike. Jack Finnegan, Finn's enigmatic uncle with a reputation for whispered secrets and discreet machinations, was telling anyone who would listen that he was Luna's true father. The allegation, seated at first in hushed tones at Il Giardino's back tables, then aired in snide remarks at couture events, quickly metastasized into a full-blown scandal. Intimate testimonies from Jack's former paramours hinted at an affair with Luna's mother before she had ever entered the Nozawa orbit. A faded photograph surfaced showing a young Luna perched on Jack's shoulders, grinning up at him like a trusting child. And a stack of old letters, apparently discarded by Poppy in haste, surfaced in the editor's office of a rival fashion magazine, each line dripping with paternal pride and longing. Jack, usually so implacable behind his steel-gray gaze, found himself cornered by reporters probing for DNA confirmation, by Finn's anguished confrontations, and by Luna's tears when she recognized the face that should have been her protector rather than the uncle she hardly knew. At first, Liam refused to give credence to the gossip, certain that Jack's motive was simple. He wanted leverage against Sheila Sharp, to distract from his own shady deals and to weaken Sheila's tenuous alliance with the Forrester family. Hours after Sheila herself had re-emerged from her own redemption arc to challenge Poppy's narrative about the Nozawa Buckingham coup. But when Jack privately handed Liam a sealed envelope containing genetic markers purportedly matching his own DNA to Luna's, Liam's certainty wavered. The Excel spreadsheet, the blood-type probabilities, the careful chain of custody documentation, all of it bore the crest of a top forensic laboratory in Santa Monica. In a rare moment of desperation, Liam confronted Finn in the hushed calm of the hospital chapel just as the sunset bathed the stained glass windows in amber. He pleaded for discretion, for patience, for trust. If Jack is lying, we'll expose him. If Jack is telling the truth, we owe Luna the truth. Finn's jaw set as he stared at the tiny shards of light on the floor, each one a reminder of every secret his family had kept from him. He agreed to await an independent verification, a second DNA test administered under the eyes of a neutral third party, the HL. Sterling Genetic Institute, renowned for its unassailable reputation and its policy of absolute confidentiality. Yet, even as Liam arranged the clandestine transport of Luna to Sterling's discreet facility in Pasadena, her hand shaking on the wheel of the unmarked SUV, her head bowed beneath the oversized hoodie that shielded her from recognition, another layer of sabotage took shape. Sheila Sharp, Ever the cunning strategist, even from her hospital bed, had caught wind of Jack's accusation and recognized the raw potential it held. If Luna was truly Jack's daughter, then Finn's very identity would be called into question, his bloodline fractured, his inheritance uncertain, the Forrester-Finnegan union precarious. Sheila murmured to Thomas in moments he thought she slept that the revelation could hand her the ultimate leverage. To reclaim the role of matriarch, to insinuate herself into Finn's life not as a dangerous interloper, but as the only true guardian of his interests, and to shatter any alliance between the Spencers and the Forresters that might stand in her way. In covert calls made under the guise of medical consultations, Sheila tapped into an associate in the Sterling Institute, a disgraced technician eager to regain favor. To ensure the first test results would be inconclusive, leaving Luna suspended between two possible fathers. When Liam received a call that the initial results were pending further analysis, dread coiled in his gut. Without a definitive answer, the rumor would metastasize, turning Luna's sanctuary into a looming trap. Meanwhile, the grapevine of Los Angeles high society exploded. Steffi Forrester, caught between her devotion to Finn and her fierce protectiveness of Luna, found herself scrambling through emergency board meetings at Forrester Creations, her calm executive facade cracking as she fielded relentless inquiries from the press about a paternity bombshell that no one had seen coming. Hope Logan, ever the peacemaker, reached out to Luna in Malibu with tearful texts and soothing voice messages, promising that no matter the outcome, Luna would remain part of their family. But Luna, her trust shattered by Poppy's betrayal, her heart already bruised by Jack's insinuations, withdrew deeper into herself, haunted by the possibility that she had unknowingly robbed Finn not only of the last vestiges of his security, but also of the very father he believed he had. As days passed and the second DNA test loomed, the tension grew unbearable. Bill Spencer, whose own history of paternity controversies had fueled boardroom gossip for years, exploded in a rare moment of genuine fury at Jack's audacity. He vowed to subpoena every shred of evidence, to hire the best legal minds, and to crush any attempt at manipulation with the full might of Spencer Publications. Sheila, overhearing the commotion from her recovery suite, allowed herself a thin, feral smile. The chaos she had sown in the hospital corridors, the alliances she had already begun to broker in the shadows, now it threatened to erupt in the very center of the family she had once tried to destroy. If Jack were proven the true father, then Finn would be a child without a familiar anchor and beholden to a man he barely knew, and Sheila could emerge as his only constant. On the eve of the final results, Liam stood alone on the sand outside Luna's Malibu hideaway, the night tide whispering at his feet, the moon a sliver of white fire in a black canvas. He cradled Luna's hand in both of his voice low and steady as he told her that tomorrow, no matter what the test said, they would face the world together. Luna looked up at him, her eyes glossy with unshed fears, and whispered, "I just want the truth." Liam hugged her close, feeling the tremor in her frame, and vowed that whether Jack's story was true or a cruel fabrication, they would stand by each other. When dawn broke and the email arrived from Sterling's encrypted server, Liam's heart pounded so fiercely he thought it might burst from his chest. He opened it with trembling fingers. The match probability was 99.987%. Luna was Jack's biological daughter. The words blurred as Liam reread them, each phrase a nail driven into the coffin of everything they had believed. He felt the ground shift beneath him, felt the tides pull him toward an abyss of consequences. He could barely catch his breath as he dialed Finn's number, knowing that one call would set off a chain reaction unlike anything they had yet endured. And in the distance, at the Forrester estate and at Sheila's hospital room alike, alarms would sound, alliances would fracture, and the once solid pillars of family would tremble on the brink of collapse, because in the world of the bold and the beautiful, A single strand of DNA could unravel destinies, destroy loyalties, and hand dangerous leverage to the woman who had waited so long to seize her moment. When the dawn's first gray light filtered through the curtains of Finn's study at the Forrester estate, the phone on his polished mahogany desk vibrated with a single incoming call that carried a weight no one could have anticipated. Liam's voice, usually a steady anchor in every storm, trembled as he spoke the words that fractured Finn's world. "It's true, brother. Luna, she's Jack's daughter." For a heartbeat, the only sound was the distant hum of the estate's morning bustle. The faint whir of the coffee maker in the kitchen, the echo of a garbage truck outside the gate, before Finn's knees buckled, and he sank onto the leather swivel chair, his face ashen. The revelation struck him like a bullet, more penetrating, more unexpected than any he had ever faced. Jack, the man he had admired as an uncle's stalwart counsel, had harboring a secret paternity for years, and Luna, the young woman he had protected and cherished as family by choice, was bound by blood to someone else entirely. In the airless hush of that room, Finn's mind raced through every memory. Every childhood Christmas, when Jack's booming laugh had filled the halls, every whispered piece of advice Jack had offered him when he felt lost, every time Finn had thought, with unguarded certainty, that Jack's love for him was the immutable truth of their bond. And now that truth lay in tatters, replaced by a genetic fact that threatened to upend every relationship, every alliance, every whisper of loyalty woven between the Spencer, Forrester, and Nozawa clans. Within minutes, Finn summoned Steffi to his side, her heels clicking down the hallway as she burst into the room, her face taut with concern. He placed the phone in her hand, watching helplessly as her eyes widened, storm clouds gathering in the steel-gray depths he had come to know so well. Steffi's gasp echoed in Finn's chest, part shock, part devastation, and in that instant, the fortress of their blended family began to crumble. She pressed her lips to Finn's forehead, her voice a strained whisper, "We'll figure this out. Together." But even as she spoke, her tone carried the tremor of uncertainty that mirrored Finn's own. They both knew that figuring this out meant facing Jack, questioning the man who had filled the role of father for so long, demanding answers not only for Luna's sake, but for Finn's own fractured identity. Meanwhile, in the sanctuary of the Malibu cottage, Liam sat beside Luna as she draped herself in the embroidered shawl he had brought her, her eyes red-rimmed from a night of tears. When he broke the news of the DNA results, Luna's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she seemed as though she might disappear into the shadows of the room. Then Liam took her hand, his grip fierce and unwavering, and vowed that no matter whose blood flowed through her veins, she would remain part of their family. "We'll face Jack," he promised, "and we'll protect you from Sheila's schemes. You're not alone." Luna's trembling nod was both a gesture of gratitude and an acknowledgement of the ordeal still to come, a journey into the heart of betrayal, where every step could wound her more deeply than the last. Across town, Jack Finnegan reclined in the study of his sleek penthouse, a glass of scotch swirling in one hand as he listened to the recorded message he had orchestrated to reach Finn. His jaw tightened with a mixture of triumph and apprehension as he replayed the clinching phrase, "I gave you a family, Finn, but I also gave Luna her true name." He had calculated the impact of that message down to the silences between words, knowing it would shatter more than just familial bonds. It would crack the bedrock of trust that held the Spencer and Forrester worlds together. Yet even as he savored his victory, Jack could not ignore the cold trepidation settling in his chest. Once the truth emerged, Finn would demand the full story, and every lie Jack had told about Luna's mother, every hidden meeting, every forged document would be laid bare. Worse still, he knew Sheila Sharp was circling, her hospital room whisperings already in motion to exploit this turmoil for her own gain. If Jack did not move swiftly to secure his leverage, he risked losing everything he had built, his reputation, his business connections, even his tenuous grasp on Luna's loyalty. At Il Giardino that afternoon, Steffi convened an emergency gathering of the core allies, Hope Logan, Thomas Forrester, Bill Spencer, and even Rich, who had rushed back from a casting appointment at Forrester Creations when he heard the news. The air was thick with tension as Steffi laid out the dilemma. Luna's true paternity, the betrayal stitched into Jack's deception, the looming threat of Sheila's maneuver to position herself as Finn's indispensable confidant. They pored over every possible scenario, press conferences to control the narrative, legal injunctions to prevent Jack from contacting Luna until full disclosure. Even the possibility of moving Luna back into the Spencer estate with an alias to shield her until the storm passed. Bill, ever the strategist, argued for a scorched earth approach, publicly revealing Jack's duplicity first to seize the moral high ground. Hope, guided by compassion, cautioned that they protect Luna's emotional well-being above all, even if it meant allowing Jack a chance to explain in private. Ridge, his voice gravelly with concern, reminded them that Forrester Creations stock was already reeling from Poppy's exposé, and now a full-blown family scandal could push them to the brink of a hostile takeover. As they debated, the shadow of Sheila's scheming loomed larger than ever, for every defensive tactic they devised risked playing into her hands. Any show of disunity or panic could be seized by Sheila to portray the Forresters and Spencers as fractured beyond repair, justifying her re-entry into Finn's life as the only constant he could rely on. That evening, Finn stood at Jack's door, his reflection catching in the polished brass knocker as he steeled himself for the confrontation. When Jack opened the door, his smile was polite but guarded, as though he knew the questions Finn would ask before they were even spoken. Finn's voice was low and icy as he demanded the truth. Why had Jack hidden this from him? How could he claim to be family while denying Finn his own father? Jack's expression flickered. Was it guilt? Or was it the satisfaction of watching Finn unmoor himself, before he guided Finn inside and closed the door with a deliberate click? Behind them, the secrets of decades lay waiting to be unearthed. The night Jack had met Luna's mother in Tokyo, the hush money paid to buy her silence, the forged will that had redirected Luna's inheritance away from Finn's maternal aunt. As the words spilled from Jack's lips, Finn felt the ground shift beneath him once again, every promise of loyalty and love undermined by the realization that blood ties, no matter how deep, could be severed by the sharpest blade of deception. Far below in the mansion's lower corridors, Sheila Sharp watched the unfolding drama with hungry eyes, already plotting her next move. She had arranged for a confidential briefing with Dr. Patel, Finn's neurosurgeon, to plant the seed that only a mother's presence, only Sheila's presence, could provide the stability Finn needed in this vulnerable time. She had enlisted the disgraced Sterling technician to whisper doubts into the lab director's ear, ensuring that any mention of Luna's paternity would trigger questions about the validity of the DNA test itself. Sheila intended to exploit every fissure that opened in the Spencer-Forrester alliance, and Jack's bombshell had cracked the dam. If she could maneuver Finn into a place of emotional insecurity, if she could persuade him that only she, the mother who had sacrificed everything to keep him alive, could be his true north, then she could reclaim her position at his side, and with it, influence the future of the dynasty she had once threatened to destroy. Meanwhile, Luna, safe in the Malibu cottage, lay awake beneath the moonlight, her thoughts a tempest of betrayal, confusion, and fear. She traced the carved initials she and Finn had once etched into the cottage window pane, a symbol of the family they had built by choice, not by blood. Now those initials felt like a mockery of her most cherished memories. Yet as she clutched Liam's old leather jacket to her chest, a talisman of his unwavering protection, she realized that blood might define her origins, but love would define her future. She resolved that when the time came, she would face Jack with steel in her spine, demanding the truth about her mother, about his motives, about the years stolen from her. And if Sheila tried to insert herself into that moment, Luna would stand her ground, refusing to be anyone's pawn again. In the high towers of Los Angeles power, the alliances that had once seemed unbreakable now trembled on the edge of oblivion. The Spencer and Forrester clans, bound by decades of friendship, marriage, and shared triumphs, had discovered that their greatest weapon, their unity, could also be their greatest vulnerability when confronted with a lie so profound it splintered every bond. As the city lights flickered to life that night, the question on everyone's lips was not who Luna's father was, but who would stand by her when the final truth came to light, and whose betrayal would prove to be the most dangerous of all. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, a single strand of DNA had the power to unravel destinies, and no one would emerge from this crucible unchanged.
Oh.